Hello again, and it's Sean and Ian here to work with you and share with you our insights on the 5 dysfunctions of a team, coupled with emotionally intelligent leadership. And in the last session, we talked about trust as being the first dysfunction, or the lack of trust would be the first dysfunction, and how that benefits and how it looks and how it benefits from emotional intelligent leadership as well. So today we're going to be talking about conflict, or constructive conflict, and we'll be less than 10 minutes today, guys. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand over to Ian to introduce the concept of constructive conflict.
Thanks, Sean. Let's crack on. Conflict. The dysfunction is the fear of conflict, when people in a team don't really get to the bottom of the differences in their opinion. So good teams are really, really good at handling conflict, but handling it in a productive way.
Yes.
So good teams, in terms of conflict, they have all members voice their opinion. They actively seek the opinion of other members, whether that's the same opinion or not. They get everything out into the open. And make sure that everything is heard, because the next step after conflict is being able to make a decision that everybody commits to. Now, if you don't get your particular view out on the table, if it's not heard, if you don't believe your team has listened to it, you're gonna feel let down if a decision is made, your opinion hasn't been heard, and it's gone another way. So I don't know whether that's making sense, but it's really important that everything from everybody in the team is out on the table, is discussed, debated, and a decision made.
Well, it's interesting.
Of course, you can't do that without trust.
Of
because
course.
You need to be in that position of trusting each other to move into that what can be sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable conflict.
Yeah. So really what you're talking about there then, as I interpret that under the emotionally intelligent leadership angle, is that in order to have those constructive conflict conversations, and to be able to come to an effective decision, the space needs to be safe. So you need to feel that you're safe in that. And if you remember in the last session, we talked about safe, belong, matter.
Yeah.
Subconscious
comes
question.
up all the time, Sean.
It's going to just go over and over and over. So really, and the safe, belong, matter helps to create the trust.
Yeah.
And it's like an infinity loop. If you have trust, then people feel safe.
Yeah.
If they feel safe, then there's trust being built. So it strikes me then that in order to be able to have that conflict effectively worked through, and everybody gets an opportunity to be heard and then understood. So we're actually moving into the detail of what happens in that constructive conflict.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether you're familiar with Marshall Rosenberg and the nonviolent communication.
No.
Here's the very, very beginning. I'll not go into much detail because time is tight, but the very sort of opening gambit is that everybody wants to be heard and understood.
Yeah.
When they're heard and understood, fully understood, the energy and the frustration, if it's there, leaves them. So in doing so, in being heard and understood, it then also meets their safe, belong, matter. It definitely hits the matter button. Because when they are heard and understood, then they're in a better space as well to be able to hear and understand others. And the last point on that is just something that helps people to embed this, is I say in any interaction, in any high stress interaction, any of these conflict-based communications, in order to get to a decision, somebody has to be the adult in the conversation. And the adult usually listens first. So I would suggest to everybody is listen first and hear everybody's angle, opinion, input. As long as it's on point, then hear it all. And then the second part of that, and the last bit of it, is active listening. So you consciously ask questions that dig a little deeper to understand a little bit more, and then you can feed back to the person going, did you mean this? Do you mean that? Do you mean the other? You'll know when you've hit the nail on the head, because when somebody is sharing, as I'm doing right now, if they get fully heard and understood, they tend to go,
I understood that, Sean.
there you go. And so over to you now.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, absolutely agree with what you're saying. But actually, if you approach it, the conflict in the right way, and as you say, you listen and respect the person in the team's opinion, very often, the natural thing is, if you think you've got a good idea, to try and push it forward. But very often, if you do that and allow the others to build on your idea, it can move from being a conflict situation to actually, here's my good idea, but somebody's got another good idea, which when you put it together, gives an even better idea. And that's the beauty of a team being comfortable to enter into that space of conflict, if that makes sense.
Yes, so they bring all their own specialities, their own abilities and experience, and it's in a safe environment where when they share it, they almost know that it's a selfless sharing, and they almost know that the other smart people in the team may be able to pick up and run with it. And actually what you get is a better version of your original idea in the first place.
And when you've got that, you've got a good fun environment. The meetings are they're lively, they're interesting, everybody's opinions are out there, real problems are solved, and it's usually the team is not afraid to handle some of the difficult ones. When you have a fear of conflict, some of the more difficult issues are sort of bypassed and put to one side and get sort of slightly visited every time and never moved forward. So and those meetings can be quite boring as well. So if you can get through that stage, and again come back to trust is important, get to that stage where you're comfortable with conflict. And in my experience, teams that sit down and say, actually, let's get some ground rules around how we operate conflict, that works really well, because they almost give permission for the conflict behavior, so you can get into it knowing that it's done, with love, if you like.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's that I think is very important. And as a leader on a team, if it's not happening, I think you've got to try and mine for conflict. If you can remember back to situations where you've been in a meeting and somebody's nodded in sort of faint agreement, and you can see by the body language they don't agree, I think you've got to bring it out. You've got to bring out the differences, because only when those have been heard can you feel, your ideas have been respected, your opinions have been taken into account, whether the decision goes away or not. So let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up there. So we've done trust, and we've touched on constructive conflict, and in the next one we're going to be dealing with
commitment, and you can't have commitment properly without conflict. Okay.
Perfect. I'll see you in the next one, mate. Thanks so much. Take care.